my wife, my love, the wonderful Heidi die.
Well, that was a lovely introduction. Thank you.
We tend to keep our door open because we want people to feel safe to be able to come if they need a place.
We knew that if we were taking in people with really difficult backgrounds, whether that be teenagers, whether that be people coming off the streets, whether that be, drug addiction, whatever the case was, we knew we couldn't do that alone. And so by having these young adults who wanted to grow in discipleship and had a heart for the Lord, just kind of wanted to be trained, it was boots on the ground training for them.
What would be some keys, if you like 2 or 3 keys that have kept our marriage strong, that others might want to learn from or adapt?
Well, the first one is...
Welcome to another installment of the Legacy Disciple podcast, where we seek to normalize disciple making. Today, my guest is the finest guest I've ever had on here. My wife, my love, the wonderful Heidi die.
Well, that was a lovely introduction. Thank you.
I try to keep it G-rated.
Yeah, good for you.
So we've been married 25 years. It'll be 26 years this July. We've got a little bit of history together, know each other pretty well in a biblical sense. And but I always ask people to share their faith journey.
Wait, before we start, can we talk about your hoodie or your sweatshirt you have on? Because I can't help but think that's intentional.
It is. I love you.
That's so sweet. I love it.
But your faith journey, I know it obviously, but if you could share for our audience, key people, key exposure, key ways that God brought you to himself and to a mature faith.
Okay. Well, if you're familiar with Brian's story, because you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I would basically say there could not be 2 more opposite people who have been placed in a marriage relationship together by the Lord. My story is that I grew up, I am the product of 2 praying grandmothers. That's what I would say. And we do have that in common, because you had a praying grandmother as well. But grew up in a small town and grew up just going to church every Sunday, really working to be a good little girl. But the older that I got, the more time that I found myself spending at my grandmother's house. And I don't think that I could put words to it back then, what attracted me so much to her house and to her space, but it definitely was how she loved people. And that was a reflection of her relationship with the Lord. And later in life, one of the most precious gifts that I ever was given was her Bible. And I still have it by my bedside to this day. She was a godly woman who opened her home to anyone and everyone that needed a place to stay. And she would host Bible studies in her home, host prayer groups in her home. In fact, the reason I say I'm a result of 2 praying grandmothers is because my grandmothers were in a prayer group together, which my grandmothers both kind of hosted. And so I am just so grateful that they spent time praying over us, and my parents are believers as well, brought us to church. And it was about the age 12 when I really got serious about wanting to follow the Lord and not just do good deeds. I was baptized at 12, and I got to high school, and I just felt so lonely because I looked around and I saw people who I went to church with that really weren't living for the Lord and not desiring to do anything really with their lives that demonstrated Christ. And so by the time I got to college, I was desperately seeking for godly friendship because I wanted to grow in my faith, but I kind of felt like I didn't know how, because I felt like outside of my family, I didn't have a lot of other support systems. So I chose to go to a Christian college, Trinity International in Deerfield, which sadly is no
R.I.P.
longer. Yeah. But there was where my faith really took root and grew and became my own, because it was my first time venturing out, choosing my own church, choosing whether or not to go to church. But I got surrounded by a group of friends that really loved the Lord and challenged me in my faith to grow each and every day, and just been growing ever since then.
So you said you went to Trinity, so that kind of goes into our connection story. I always tell people we met at a club, not the club, but at a community club. So I grew up with two best friends, and one of them went to the same school you went to.
Correct.
You guys met freshman orientation
Shout out
week.
to Carlos Borges.
Carlos Borges, who's in the education world here in Chicago. And you guys connected, became friends. You were in a lot of the same classes and so forth. And I remember him calling me because I was at another college and said, "Yo, B, I got this white girl for you." Because, I'm white and Puerto Rican, but grew up in a Puerto Rican community. I just thought I would always marry a Puerto Rican girl. And so I was like, "Los, I ain't marrying no white girl." But as I got to know you, I saw your heart, your love for the Lord, your love for people, and you would come and give up your summer breaks to serve at this Christian club, community center that I had grown up in. And you started mentoring students. You started sharing the gospel with kids. You started running clubs and all that. And even though you came from a different context, you come from a small town, kind of middle class family background, you fell in love with the people, and the kids and the families have always known you as someone who cares, someone who's genuine for them. You studied education. I studied education. That was another connection that we have. And so you had made the decision that you were going to move to Chicago and teach in an elementary school in the neighborhood that we were serving in Humboldt Park. And so as soon as I knew that you made that commitment, that's kind of when I started to get a little more interested, thinking, okay, this is not just someone who serves a couple summers in the city and then will bounce, because I knew that I was called to the city of Chicago. And so we started talking. I'll try. I give the shorter versions. But
I'll fill in the details.
Even though I think this is running a little long, but so our first date, and to keep this relatively short, was a high school basketball game of a young lady, Robin, that we were both pouring into, mentoring. I grew up with a couple of her brothers, and so we went to this high school basketball game, and then I think we were at a wedding, maybe right before that, where this young girl, Robin, tried to connect us. And then we went to Dave & Buster's.
Wait, before then, wasn't our second date the White Sox game?
Baseball game.
With a van load of 15 teenagers.
15 teenagers.
He had to test it out and make sure that I was okay with them first, right?
Yeah, so, some people may know that I'm kind of like the discipleship guy, right? But that was started when I was in high school, 14 years old. And so there was a group of guys that everywhere I went, they went with. And so, I was taken to a baseball game. I asked you to come with, and kind of asked the guys their input, their feedback, and they all gave glaring reports. And so the rest is history. So again, been married 25 years. I want to talk I really want to focus on hospitality. I want to focus on neighborhood ministry. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about marriage as well, depending on how much time we could get. When when I think of ministry, when most people think of ministry in the States in America, we think of a specific place, a specific time, a specific program. So whether it's youth ministry, there's a youth night. Whether it's church, there's a Sunday service, and so on and so on. And I think both of us have been wired to try to emulate the life of Jesus as much as possible. That as you're going, you're making disciples. As we're going, we're on mission. Ministry isn't relegated to a specific place or time, but it's wherever the Spirit of God is, which the Spirit of God is within us. And so we got married in 2000. We had a small apartment, a one-bedroom apartment, and I remember there was this homeless shelter around the corner from us. And well, actually, before
I was going to say,
before we
you
get
got to
there,
back up. Yeah.
Darnell, who was one of the guys who would have come to the baseball game,
Sure.
one of the guys I walked life with. He, I would have been, early 20s at the time. He was 2 or so years younger than me. He had got caught up in some legal trouble, spent a little bit of time in jail, was coming out, but was on house arrest. So he needed a place to be. And so I invite him to come stay with us.
How long had we been married at this point?
Married for about 6 months, if
Correct.
I remember right.
Correct.
6 months into our marriage, I remember people saying, "Hey, give it a year, establish your marriage before you do too much." And but 6 months in, I asked you, it was like, "Babe, can Darnell stay with us?" And you gave your blessing. And we only had a couch, so he stayed on the couch.
Yep.
And I think he stayed with us for about 6 months. And then again, there was a homeless shelter around the corner, and so I'm an introvert. You're an extrovert. That's ways that we are different. And so I usually don't start up conversations with people. But I remember getting out of the car. I parked, got out of the car, was coming to the apartment. You were getting dinner ready. And I meet this guy, and we just spark up a conversation, and find out his name is Craig, and invite him over for dinner. And we get to know him. He eats a hot meal. He was staying in a
Which
shelter.
he still talks about to this day.
He still talks about. This is 25
and
years
he
ago.
remembers the meal, what I made, and he still talks about it.
Yep, fettuccine alfredo, was it? And so he was at that time about 40, so about 20 years older than us. And as we get to hear his story, he was in the military, got addicted to drugs, had off and on addictions to that, and as a result was unhoused. And so we would go to the shelter that would let him stay, basically at 9 p.m., but until then he was just kind of wandering the streets. So that led to him starting inviting other friends over to our house. He would make dinner. We would have a Bible study. And I remember, some of the guys would come and they'll fall asleep. And at first, being a little offended by that. But then both of us talking and realizing, man, these guys don't have too many places of peace where they're comfortable enough to fall asleep. And but Craig ends up staying with us for 2 years. Has some time, some relapses in that time, but then has another relapse, and we lose track of him. And we get a letter in the mail 10, 15 years later, from him saying that he had relocated to Iowa, was walking with Christ at a church, getting married, invited us to come to his wedding. So since then, the past 10 years or so, we've been reconnected with him. Every time he's in Chicago, we connect. He takes care of us now. He treats us out to dinner. When we're in Iowa, we stay with him. He, again, cooks for us and everything. He just really a different life. And I share that really because I think the idea of hospitality is something that, again, that we've tried to work on. And hospitality is really two Greek words tied together. One is phileo, which is brotherly love. The other word is a word xenos, which means stranger. So really, it's making a stranger into a friend, into a brother, and the qualifications of an elder is must be hospitable. The Bible tells us as believers to be hospitable one to another, and so really it's a command that all of us are supposed to be doing, and it's probably one of the commands that American Christians are the most comfortable with not following and breaking, and and hospitality doesn't just take place in a house. I'm sure there's single people who might still be living at home, who might have a roommate and so forth. But hospitality is more of a demeanor that you carry with you everywhere, and you help someone who is a stranger become a friend, become a brother or sister. And I think you practice this well, even more than I do, in your work. You're in the education world. I'm gonna have you share more of what you do and kind of the journey into that space, and then you're I guess seeing that as a mission field, and how you make friends and how you look for ministry opportunities in that.
Sure, I'd love to share. Yeah, I definitely think hospitality is bigger than a place, and I'm glad you brought that up because it really is an attitude or a mindset of how can I make people feel comfortable in any setting that I'm in. And I don't know, do you want me to talk about where I work or?
Yeah.
Okay. So I started off well, Brian mentioned earlier, we both started off in education, and he decided not to be a teacher. I decided to be a teacher. So I taught for about 8 years in Chicago Public Schools, and then I realized it wasn't a real good work-life balance for me because we were doing so much ministry outside of school hours, and it was really draining me. So the Lord opened a door for me to start working in the after school world. And so
And just for people who don't know the education world, after school is like programming, kind of 3 to 6 type hours, where you bring in extra tutor help, you bring in some creative elements, arts, music,
yes,
so forth.
And they all happen inside of the school. So even though it's not a school day activity, it's very much connected to the school day. And so it allowed me over the years of being in one particular school, which is a neighborhood school near our house, to really be present both during after school and during the school day. And in that time frame, I got really close with teachers there, students, families, and I really felt like it was my mission to create a space not only for me to connect with them, but for them to connect with each other. So I would do things like parent cafes where parents would come together and they would share with one another strategies for good parenting. Now, I'm not a parent myself, so I wasn't necessarily adding to that conversation, but I was facilitating a space for people to be able to connect. And that's one of the things. Also with teaching staff, anytime we had a meeting or anything of the sort, I would make sure that there was food there, whether that was a box of donuts or a box of Joe or anything else. It was just food tends to bring people's guards down and make people feel comfortable and help people to open up a little bit more. So I would bring that element into my staff meetings that I would have. And I still do that to this day. In the work that I do, sometimes we'll meet at a coffee shop rather than meeting in a school building or at the office. I'll say, you know what? We just met like a couple of weeks ago. This time, why don't we meet somewhere else off-site? And that allows us to build more than just a professional relationship, but really go deeper and build that personal element as well. Even with I work with 10 different Chicago public schools. And so we bring people together on a quarterly basis for large group trainings, but we also do smaller trainings that for just the 10 schools that I work with specifically. And so I get to facilitate those type of environments in that space. And even within my work team, our team is 12 people, small department but mighty. And so we're having a team retreat in a couple of weeks. And so we just had a meeting to say, well, what should we do at the team retreat? We were trying to all put our input in. And it got around, everybody around the circle said something, and it got to me, and I was like, well, how about we just find a way to build in joy? How about we find a way to get to know each other, do some SE, social emotional learning activities, just to kind of build a foundation, because we know that if we're connected relationally, then we'll also work better together as a team. So did that answer your question?
Yeah. Again, just the idea of creating hospitality, because we're going to talk about a house.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to limit hospitality to a house, right?
Yeah.
Or apartment. But again, in our workplace, we could create hospitality. We could, again, engage with people, inviting people to join us for lunch, grab coffee after work, bring a box of donuts to the office, type thing. Ask people their name, ask them their story. Again, I think there's something innate about humans that we want to be seen, we want to be known, we want to know that we have a place, and you've done that well. And even with your work at the school, we've met a lot of families and a lot of young people that we've ended up ministering to through your connections at schools. Where maybe your school hours aren't necessarily, you're not doing Bible studies, and
right.
You're not doing a full gospel presentation, but you're inviting students to come by, you're inviting families to come by the house, you're inviting them to different programs that we've been connected with. I think of Deja, a young lady that you brought to this sports program that we were volunteering at. I think of Davion, who's been on this podcast that you knew in third grade at the elementary school, that years later comes to Christ and is now one of the leaders with Legacy Disciple, mentoring other students.
Your Kaleo Jamal as well.
Jamal, so many, right, of people like that you've been able to connect with at the workplace. They know that you care for them, which opens up so many doors of ministry. So let's talk about the house.
Okay.
So again, we lived in Humboldt Park initially. That's where I grew up. That's where we met. But Humboldt Park started to gentrify, became out of our price range. And so we had to find a new place. And so we moved to a neighborhood a little further west, a little further south, called West Garfield
Park.
Park.
Where all of our students were moving from Humboldt Park.
A lot of our students were moving where they could afford as well. And so we bought a 6-bedroom house. 2 bedrooms we use as our personal bedroom and office in the attic space. 4 bedrooms on the second floor, and then a shared living space on the first floor, and basically a basement for storage, right? Just to give a little context. And we moved there in the spring of 2004. So we're going on 22 years there at that house. We have been married 25 years, have had no biological kids. And every once in a while, someone gets the courage to ask us, why don't you have kids, right? Because I know there's many different people who have different stories with that. But for us, we did the birth control the first year, just to get established in our marriage. We went off birth control after that, but I would say neither of us had a burning desire. Like, we never talked about kids' names, and we never talked about what our kids would be and how we would raise them and all that. Maybe because we're both so involved in kids, you in the school, me with more teenagers.
But I also think it was just the Lord's will be done. I just think we were yep, if the Lord wants it to happen, it will. And if not,
Yeah.
that's okay.
So 24 years off the pill, we've just never got pregnant. And for us, there was no need to go get tested and figure out what's going and on and what we could change. It was okay. God doesn't have us have children. How else can we meet the needs of young people? How else can we use our house? How else can we use our time to invest in other lives? And for a while, we explored foster care. We realized that wasn't for us per se, but in our again 25 years of marriage, we've had roughly 200 people live with us. I would say maybe 10% have been like teenagers who have had, we've known their families, and for whatever reason, the family just there need to be some kind of break and some kind of support added. So we've taken in teenagers, but for the most part, I would say young 20s, right? Who are looking for discipleship, who are looking for community. We've taken in people who've had drug addictions. We've taken in people who've had criminal backgrounds who just weren't able to get a job and needed some assistance.
And can I say that I think we've always tried to have a balance in that, just because we knew that if we were taking in people with really difficult backgrounds, whether that be teenagers, whether that be people coming off the streets, whether that be drug addiction, whatever the case was, we knew we couldn't do that alone. And so by having these young adults who wanted to grow in discipleship and had a heart for the Lord, just kind of wanted to be trained, it was boots on the ground training for them, because they were able to then come alongside of us and really help us in some of those more difficult cases to walk with people and be there for them, so we didn't have to be there for them 24/7.
Yeah, creating a community of support, a family structure in many ways. I remember this, I was thinking how many stories we want to share, and one day
for days.
One day we'll write a book. But one story just kind of maybe alluded to that a little bit. And this is years ago. I remember there was someone who was just driving through town. I think they were coming from Canada or something like that. They were sleeping on our couch, and I wake up in the morning, and the guy says, "Do you know who that was sleeping on your stairs?" I was like, "No, who was sleeping on the stairs?" And he says, "Some lady came in the house. I just thought that you guys knew her or whatever." And then one of the guys who was living with us, and I don't remember which one it was, said, "Oh yeah, I came out of my room, and there was throw up on the stairs, and this lady, was laying there, and I helped her, and got her some food and whatnot, and cleaned up the throw up, and then she left." Right? So we had no context of who this lady is and whatnot. We tend to keep our door open, just because we want people to feel safe to be able to come if they need a place.
And there was always so many people staying with us that it always felt like.
So we have people come in to get some water from the kitchen or make a sandwich or whatever the case might be. And so we didn't think much of it. Okay, I don't know who this lady was. I remember, I think it was about a year later, I was sitting on the front porch, and it was around July 4th. And we have some neighbors who always have extended family come for July 4th. And one of the guys sat next to me. I never met this guy before. And he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, my wife and I were here visiting last year, and my wife got drunk, had too much, and she ended up in your house. And I just want to thank you guys for being a safe place, because I don't know where my wife would have ended up and who could have taken advantage of her and so forth." And that, I'm not saying everyone needs to leave their house unlocked. I'm not saying, everyone needs to do things the way we do. But again, I think that's, both of us have had this this heart of, again, just creating a safe space where people could be seen, people could be known, people could be loved on, and people could be introduced to the gospel. And again, we've seen people who've come to Christ. We've seen people grow in Christ. We, a number of, specifically the teenagers who lived with us, we consider our godsons now. And many of them have had children who've become, I always say, you're the kid whisperer, right? You kind of take them from birth until 12 years old, and then I take them from 13 and up. Mm-hmm. And you got a pile of toys in our house and children's books, and kids just love being with you. And again, I'm kind of the cool unk, and hang out with the teenagers. Some other things we do in our house is we try to always prepare more food than we need, just because anyone could stop by for dinner, and we have that happen often. We do a Tuesday night community Bible study and dinner. Usually have about a dozen people at it, some teenagers, some young adults, some Christians, some new formed Christians, some people still on the journey. And it's just a place for people to come and explore the scriptures in a safe place, mm-hmm. And share a meal and build in community. We have what do you call it? A book library mm-hmm. out front that your parents helped you to create. Mm-hmm. It looks like a robot, and which mm-hmm. always catches people's attention. Mm-hmm. But kids come by and parents come by and get books from it. We have a community garden. I'm gonna let you talk about that because that's kind of your pride and joy, and you continue to become a professional botanist.
Well, thank you very much. I just wanted to circle back to the story you told about us not having our own biological children. And I can't help but think, God brought us together for a specific purpose. And that purpose was to love on people who others may not see or may not we may just give them a place to belong. And so I feel like that's the reason there's never been any sorrow in our hearts about not having kids, is because we feel so committed to that purpose that the Lord has given to us. So, okay, back to my garden. My garden is definitely a gift from the Lord. About 5 years ago, the city was trying to rid themselves of empty lots. And so there were just all these abandoned lots owned by the city. And they said, well, if there's a homeowner on the block and they would like to purchase one of these empty lots and care for it
for $1,
we'll sell it to them. And they probably will never do that again, ever. And we were just so blessed and fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. And the Lord opened that door, so we got that $1 lot. And not only did we get that $1 lot, but then we were able to partner incredibly with all these amazing organizations who built us raised beds. So I have 8 raised beds in that community garden. And they provided, not only did they build the beds, but then provided dirt for the beds. I'm sorry, soil. I've been corrected in my class that I'm taking. It's not dirt, it's soil. But anyway, so they filled it with soil, and soil is super expensive. So I just saw it as all the Lord's provision. So how could I not use the garden as an opportunity for ministry? And it's just another way to keep me connected and rooted in the community. So every spring we have planting day. I usually do it around Mother's Day, and I invite people to join me planting the flower. It's not usually flowers. I do vegetables because I want people to not only just look at it but enjoy the harvest as well.
And we live in a food desert, so it provides good resources in that way.
Right. So they help me to plant, and not only do they help me plant, but throughout the summer when I'm out there with my hose, I want to help water. I want to help water. I was like, well, can you help me pick the weeds too? And every now and again, I'll get those who really get excited about picking the weeds. Most of them are just interested in the watering. But either way, they're learning a new skill. They're invested in the garden so that when there's growth, I bring them over to the garden. I'm like, come on, guys, let's go pick from the garden. And then we harvest together. And then I'm like, share this with your mom. Have her cook something for you. Do you want to taste test this with me? We try new foods together. It's just a real joy and a way to bring the community together. And I have a group of kids that are really committed, and some parents too, because I've had neighbors who have seen me in the garden and have come over, and I've said, hey, I always save 2 out of the 8 beds for anybody in the community who would like to join us in planting something. So usually those 2 beds get taken up by neighbors who want to plant and care for whatever vegetables they choose to plant. And then, it just becomes a real celebration when there is a harvest and I get to share it with everybody. And I have one neighbor across the street, an elderly lady who loves green tomatoes. And so she's always asking me, are your tomatoes ready yet? Are they green? And so, I always save those for her. And we call her Big Ma. She's great. And she bakes for us, and I provide veggies for her. She bakes for us. So it's real sweet just to be there. And I just love being outside in the garden because I see everybody and everything that happens as they're walking by. People stop to talk to me. I've had so many opportunities just to share the gospel with people in my garden. They'll just stop by and I get to talk to them about Jesus. So it's an amazing ministry opportunity, and it's really enhanced, I think, our community presence.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about what I call the doctrine of location. In Acts 17, God allotted our periods of time and our location where we are to dwell, and so that others may find him, is a summary of the passage. And living with the understanding that God has us, me born in 76, you born in 77, right? Us living in West Garfield Park, like that's all God's plan. Mm-hmm. And God has specifically put us on our block so that others may find him. Others who are searching, seeking, even though they may not know that they're searching and seeking. Yeah. And my encouragement to those listening is, God has placed you exactly where he wants you to be, at the exact time where he wants you to be there. Mm-hmm. He's put other people around you that are searching for God, and it's our privilege to be able to introduce them to this God that we've gotten to know because of our grandparents and because of others who've invested into us. Now we get to be that for other people. Mm-hmm. So again, doctrine of location. Where's God put you, and how can you use that for God's glory? Mm-hmm. And again, for both of us, we both have day jobs. We don't get paid to do neighborhood ministry, but that's something that we truly get joy from. And I remember Francis and his wife Lisa Francis Chan, wrote a book that you read, and you gave me kind of the cliff notes of it. But I remember one thing that you mentioned was how they just talked about when you have a mission together as a couple, you're fighting a task together, you're less likely to fight each other, right? Yes. You're driven towards something. You're learning to work towards something, and that's just a beautiful thing, I think, for married couples. Yes, you may have different occupations. Yes, you may have even different ministry passions, but what can you find together that you continue to deepen your relationship and find your purpose together? And so I think the idea of hospitality is something that we've been able to do together. Really love on our block, and we've been on our block again 22 years, and we've seen kids who were 4 or 5 years old who are now in their 20s who are having kids.
Right.
we've seen them grow up. We've seen some of them follow Christ and some not, but um, the relationship is still there because people know where they can find us.
And
We
all the
haven't
time,
moved.
every year we have people come back and say, "Oh, you're still here. You're still here." And I remember specifically this year, I took 2 lifts at 2 different times, and my Lyft driver said, Are you guys the ones that barbecue out on your front porch?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's us." They're like, "I remember when I was a kid, I used to come over and you used to feed us all the time." Happened to me on 2 different occasions in 1 year. So
Just random.
just random, yeah.
And that's another thing. I didn't mention that, but years ago, I used to have the grill in the back, but then I'm thinking about, okay, we're hosting people and so forth, but there's a lot of time to spend in the backyard just grilling food for people. And so one day I just moved it to the front porch. And so when I'm grilling, as people walking by, starting up conversations, "Hey, what are you grilling?" And it's like, "We're grilling burgers, links, whatever the case might be." And, it'll be ready in a half hour, come back through. And so it's funny because when we grill now, we always invite people over. So we kind of have an idea of the number of people that we invited, dozen or whatever it might be. But then we always double that because there's going to be neighbors. There's going to be people walking by that we feed. And so, yeah, just really being, again, looking for opportunities to be a blessing to people in any way that we can. Let's talk a little bit about our marriage. Again, 25 years. I always tell people we have, the best marriage possible.
Not perfect. No marriage is perfect.
Well, yeah, you're a sinner. I'm basically like the perfect husband, model husband.
If you know Brian, if you know, because yes.
You put up with a lot, honestly, because I'm a guy who always has a new idea. I'm a guy who doesn't know how to rest. God's been working on me in the last few years on that. I think I've been getting a little bit better. Would you agree?
You have.
I'm just go, naturally. And you've been very gracious. And there's times where, I'm sacrificing paychecks for ministry, and we're struggling to get by and whatnot. So thank you for your partnership and your love. But what would be some keys, if you like 2 or 3 keys that have kept our marriage strong, that others might want to learn from or adapt?
Well, the first one is one that we tell every couple, whoever has talked to us. So if you know us, then you already know we're going to say this. But we have a weekly date night. And I think because I've always worked a full-time job, having something midweek to look forward to has been a lifeline for me. Just a time for us to reconnect no matter how busy we are. Because imagine, 9 to 5, have a regular job, and then evenings, oftentimes we're doing ministry. We have people at the house, we're going out places, whatever the case is. So if we had not carved out that one day a week to really spend, to reconnect, and to keep our relationship strong, I don't know where we'd be today, because that has you've always made that a priority for me. And I appreciate it. It's been just like so valuable to always look forward to and know that no matter, and I think it's why I've been able to let you, go on trips to do ministry things and, just meet with people late hours, early morning, whenever it is. I'm sacrificing time with you because I know that I have Wednesday to look forward to. So that's really been a lifeline for me. And just because I think everybody has busy lives these days, whether it's busy with kids or busy with sports or busy with hobbies, we're busy people. And so that, I think, has really helped and kept us rooted and grounded. And especially during times that have been more challenging, it's given us opportunities to to hash it out and to talk through things, but also just to bring a lightness to our relationship, because we don't always do the same thing on date night. Sometimes it's simply stay in and, Netflix and chill. But then other times we go out for dinner, we do things. Brian and I enjoy competitive things. So ping pong, pool, video game, or not video games, but like arcade games, whatever we can find. So I probably went too long on that point, but it's been important. It's been huge.
No, that's good. Yeah, weekly date night. As much as people are able to do that, we encourage people to do that. And obviously, it gets difficult with young kids. But even if it's getting those kids to sleep early and chilling in the living room, chilling in the bedroom, type thing. If you have family to come for a couple hours to watch the kids, that's something that we need to fight for, because we do well pursuing people when we're dating, because we're trying to win them over to us. But then once we get them, we kind of, they're mine now, and so we kind of coast. Mm-hmm. And we need to keep pursuing each other, keep finding that time to rekindle the fire.
Yeah.
And sometimes we spend money, sometimes we don't. Right? Sometimes we take
going for a walk. We do a lot of walks.
Sometimes it's
bike riding.
Going to the lakefront.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of free things to do in Chicago.
Yeah. Find free things, games at the house, right? Game night, so forth. But that has been key for us.
Yeah.
So you said date nights. Anything else you would say?
Yeah, definitely keeping short accounts. Not, the Bible says, don't let the sun go down in your anger. And I think we have over the years really worked hard at trying to work things out in a timely fashion. Brian, in every relationship, you have two types of people. It feels like there's always the one who wants to work it out right away. And then there's the person who wants to hold on to something and needs time to think. And so what we've found works for us is compromising, a balance. And I'm the person who wants to work things out right away and move on. And Brian's no, I gotta process this. I gotta think about it. I need to sit in my feelings. And so what he'll do is he'll say, I need about an hour. Can we talk in about an hour? And I'm like, okay. Because then I know this isn't going to drag on forever. I know it gives him time to think things through, calm down a little bit, so we're not going to be angry when we do discuss things. It has a start time and a stop time. And then when we come together, very important strategy, give me your hand. We hold hands and we look at each other. So no matter how angry we are, we always do that, because there's a sense of physical intimacy just by holding hands and making eye contact. That is a security. Even though I'm upset right now, I still love you. And I think that is so key, because I think all of us have a fear of rejection. And even if it's a spouse, there's still that fear there. And so by having that physical holding of hands, it just says, I'm still connected to you. I still want to make this work. It's going to be okay. So that's really been another thing for us.
So date night, keeping short accounts. And again, what short is could be different,
sure.
But it definitely shouldn't go days, right?
Right.
The Bible, I think, in Ephesians gives good wisdom. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. Because if you do, you're giving the devil a foothold. And so the longer you sit in it, the more the Satan has an opportunity to put lies and doubts in our head. Mm-hmm. Can't believe they said that to you. I can't, and we go to work the next day and we're mulling it over at work, and then we come home and we're blowing up at each other over something that was super petty. You didn't put the cap back on the toothpaste. You didn't put the toilet seat down, or whatever the case might be. I think God has really blessed us with a good marriage.
Can I give one more?
One more? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I would say for my last one, if I had to pick, it would be we're always engaged in a Bible study together. Now, that doesn't mean that we are having a one-on-one Bible study together, but it does mean that we are in community studying the Word of God together. So with that, I think it provides a built-in accountability system for us, because not only are we learning the same things together, but then it gives us conversation to talk, or it gives us opportunities to talk about things afterwards, and to really kind of, check each other at times when we need it, because he's my partner, he's not my enemy. So if he checks me, I have to believe that he's doing that with good intention. And the only way that I can do that is by being rooted and grounded in the Word myself.
That's good. Good
Thank
wisdom.
you.
I love your wisdom.
Thank you.
Turns me on. Rawr.
Okay.
But is there anything else you would like to discuss on this podcast?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity. It's been fun watching you in this space as you have conversations with different guests, and guests that are people that mean the world to me, people that we've known for years and have relationship with, and to hear you and them discuss, your ongoing relationships, discipleship relationships. It's just been a blessing to me. So for me now to sit in this chair and be able to have that same experience with you, I just feel really privileged and blessed. So thank you. Thank you for considering having me here.
Thank you for that. When I'll end with one story. Some people may know the artist Thizzle. He did a song called Urban Missionary 12, 15 years ago, something like
Google
that.
it.
You could check it out on YouTube. But in that, he has a verse talking about us. He met us, and he says our house got shot up. Not quite the reality, but our house did have a bullet go through. And I remember it was a year into us living in our house that we've been in for the last 22 years now. We had just moved in there. We're just getting to know neighbors. You're asleep in the bedroom in the front of the house. I'm in the office in the back of the house. It's 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I hear a gunshot, which was pretty regular at that time on our block. And there were times where I would have to come out and tie someone's leg up to stop the bleeding. Call the ambulance, that type of thing.
For another time, yes.
For another time. But this time specifically, I come into the bedroom, we see that a bullet went through our bedroom. And by the trajectory of it would have missed you just by an inch or two laying in bed. And I remember thinking at that time, okay, I grew up in the hood. I'm used to this. I've not that we should all ever be used to it, but it had become somewhat normal, all right? I had been to a number of funerals. I had dodged bullets. I had, driven through gun wars. And but you came from not that context. And I was thinking, in the morning, we're going to have to pack up and move out. We called our neighbors who came over. They were unbelievers. But they came over and just sat with us and comforted us, and were a presence for us.
Yeah.
And I remember when neighbors leave, we just start praying to God. God, what are you doing? What do you want us to do? We started singing praise songs, and I remember looking at you, and you said this or something similar to it. Brian, I know common sense says we should move. But I believe this is just confirmation that we need to stay, and that I was like, I got a thug for a wife now, fell in love with you even more. And again, that's not to say that everyone needs to stay in a situation like that, but I think God has specifically given us a grace to do that, and. And in the 22 years living on our block has changed. Not that it's, doesn't have its issues anymore. Yeah. But violence has gone down drastically. There's more community building going on now. Yeah. And not not that it's all us, but being a piece of what God has been able to do on our block has been an encouragement to witness.
And we can bring this full circle back to the praying grandmothers, because I had a grandmother who outlived all of our other grandmothers. She lived into her 90s, and she would pray that there would be 4 angels protecting the 4 corners of our house. And I've seen some things, and I completely believe that God's protection has been over our house all of these years. And I'm so grateful for it. And
Thank you for being the best wife ever. Thank you for joining me on this podcast. Thank you for joining us on the Legacy Disciple podcast. Again, I can encourage you, implore you, challenge you. Let's continue to be growing disciples who make disciples wherever we live, work, and play. Until next time, God bless.
Thank you for checking out today's episode of the Legacy Disciple podcast. If you're interested in learning more about our ministry, upcoming conferences, or partnering with us, head to our website at legacydisciple.org. We also encourage you to follow us online at Legacy Disciple on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Until next time, continue to be a disciple that makes disciples.